Hello, word nerds! Happy Sunday and welcome back to our monthly book club. This month we are talking about The Long Way to a Small Angry Planet by Becky Chambers. It is an adult sci-fi story. I really like it, but there's a lot of things to kind of unpack and talk about because it's not really for everybody, I guess. So let's jump in with ratings. Emma, what did you think?
I'm gonna give it like 4 stars. I enjoyed it.
Okay, that's surprising.
So right off the bat, I have not finished. I have literally 75 pages left, which apparently is the 75 pages where everything happens. Yeah, like I enjoyed it. Like I didn't like not enjoy it or hate it or anything. And like objectively, I think like the writing is really good. The characters and the world building are like really interesting. I love all the characters. But I also feel like nothing happens for 360 pages. And then suddenly in 75 pages, a lot of things happen. And I think that's like a taste thing too. Like that's just not my sort of, like I don't like slow sci-fi. And like this definitely isn't something that I would have ever picked up on my own. So yeah, so I'm like, objectively, I think it's a good book and I can definitely see why there's people who enjoy it. But it's not really my thing. So.
Fair enough. Megan?
I was telling them in the pre-chat that I was talking to my husband about this like last night, preparing my opening statement because I have so many feelings about this book that it feels like the rating is like 4 stars ? like there were things I really didn't like. The pacing was not my favorite. I felt like a lot of the plot was not driven by the characters. Like it was very quest feeling, kind of like now this dragon, now this one, which was not my favorite, but I loved the ending. Like the ending made me cry, and usually like if a book makes me cry, it's 5 stars. Like if you make me feel something that much, then I'm like, that's it, this is amazing. So it's really, I'm very excited to talk about it because I had so many feelings.
All right. I'd say for me it was like a 4, 4.5. I love the characters more than I love most characters. Like they are the people I would want to hang out with if I had to. Like this is a solid universe that I could actually go hang out with. And
like I would definitely want to be a crew member on the Wayfarer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely some pacing things. I feel like it's so episodic that it would have been good as like a serial of like read this adventure, then this adventure, and with kind of like a season-long arc that culminates in the last 75 pages.
Oh yeah, I would love that.
Oh yeah, I was talking to Michael about it, and I was like, this would be a great TV show.
It would.
I don't think it works so well as a book for me, but I think as a TV show it would be cool. Like, it's basically Firefly, but. Yeah. Which I also was never able to get into Firefly, so I guess that makes sense.
Oh, that's fair, because that is the big comparison that is like this and Firefly. But one of the big complaints I see in terms of the characters is that it's a little too naive in that everyone is so great and everyone gets along, which I guess wouldn't be great for like TV show conflict. But like Firefly kind of made it work, so.
And I feel like there's a lot going on externally that you could pull in. It's like, yeah, there's no conflict between Jinx and Lovey, but like their relationship has a lot of conflict because like the world doesn't want them to be together. And stuff like that, I guess.
I think the one part where I was like, wow, this is kind of like very optimistic of a book is like
optimistic.
I do, but also like sometimes I'm like not very like believably optimistic, I guess. It's like when they get boarded by like the pirates. And they're just like, how about we do that? And like, nobody gets hurt. Everybody's fine. And I was like, okay, this is not normally something you'd see in a book. Yeah, but I like that that's a bad thing. But I'm like, that's not something you would normally, like I was like waiting for some action and like nothing.
But it was nice to see a problem solved with like research and like nursing. Like that was one of the most, not necessarily favorite, but definitely most memorable for me of like, oh, she just like solved the problem.
By talking to them.
Yeah, like how many times do we complain in books about like they fought for so long and they couldn't just talk to each other?
I think it was more like not expected. Like, I didn't think it was a bad thing that it went that way, but I was like, that is not how books normally go. Like, it was just very unexpected, I think.
Yeah. One of the things I really, really liked was the world building. Obviously, there's so many different cultures, but especially the languages. Like, you could really tell that Becky Chambers likes linguistics and did her research on all of it.
That's something I never would have picked up on. So, yeah, they have languages. This is good.
Yeah, there was a lot of detail. There's a lot of detail in like the cultures and languages, which I thought was really cool to like I feel like, yeah, it was very like well thought out, where like normally I feel like there's a lot of like kind of like stereotypes that like aliens fall into in sci-fi books, you know, where like it's always the same thing. And I feel like she put a lot of thought into like why these cultures would be a certain way, and like, so that was really cool.
Yeah, it's a good place. Oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say, and it felt very like a lot of times in the sci-fis I've read, they're very like ethnocentric, very human-centric, where like humans are the masters of the galaxy or whatever. And even when there's people who are bigger and stronger than the humans are still the masters of the galaxy. But this was very much not the case in this book.
Yeah.
So yeah, the cultures were a big standout thing for me, along with how it kind of tied into the changing, I don't even know how to like looking at Ohan's culture and the plural and using they, and Sissix's culture with how relationships are formed. Like it touched on a lot of things going on in all of our culture, of how she used them in all of the aliens' cultures. So I thought that was a lot of fun.
Yeah,
and I felt there was like a very realistic like what human culture would be like. In the, like you know, like Rosemary like thinks about using like Z as like a gender neutral pronoun, like that's a normal thing, you know, and like and the fact that like the fleet, like the Exodans, like they have kind of blended into like one like very blended race, which like is very realistic, especially if you're all like stuck on ships together, you know, like. Yeah. And it's like, it's not like the future and everyone is still like white and heterosexual, you know, like. So that was cool. Although I'm not 100% sure how much I believe that humans would suddenly become so peaceful, but I'm like, I don't know. Is that in our nature?
But they do talk a lot about how it very much was not like that.
Yeah, they do bring it up at least, but I'm like, I don't know if that's what would really happen.
Coming from such like a Star Trek-y upbringing and like that kind of optimistic sci-fi of like, Earth's gonna get its crap together and then all of the conflict will be outside of that. So that was very much the kind of sci-fi I grew up on, so I really appreciated it. Of like, sometimes it's okay if everything's just fine. Like, yeah,
I was like, I sure hope the future is like this.
Yeah, it was like really nice because right now it's very easy to turn on the news and feel like this is it.
Yeah, it all goes downhill from here.
It's all going downhill from here. And then to read a book where it's like, no, it goes downhill and it goes uphill. And things are ultimately fine. Was just very happy.
Things are ultimately fine, even though we ruined our planet. It's cool.
It's cool.
I'd completely forgotten about like that culture of like the people who go back to Earth and try to fix it, and some of them are a little bit batty, and some of them are awesome, and it's
the people who live as hunter-gatherers. Jinx's mother's group.
Yeah, I love that. There were so many things that I feel like you could see the roots in our culture today or whatever, or like our news cycle today. That like, while it never felt overtly political, I guess, like it was definitely there, and it was definitely like, it's a part of this world, but this is how it's happening now.
Yeah, it wasn't overtly political, but it was overtly liberal.
Yeah, exactly.
It was like,
I loved it.
It wasn't overtly political, but like you could tell what Becky Chambers' political leanings are. You know?
We've got a comment from Engriswald saying, I really enjoyed the beginning, but it took a really long time to get to the Angry Planet. I wish we could have spent more time there.
They told you it was a long way.
It was a very long way. I feel the same.
I liked the journey. I know like, the pacing is what it is, and that's where like I lose stars for this book as well. Of like some bits dragged, but I liked all of the individual bits. Like I liked the way getting there and like stopping off with the two brothers in the crazy insect world and like
oh, that was so cool.
I liked all of the pieces individually. Just all together, it feels a bit long, I guess. But there's no part I would specifically take out. I just like tighten it up.
Yeah, I didn't feel misled. The title was accurate.
I had a feeling this is what this book is going to be like going into.
I also definitely found myself wishing, like, once we got to the small angry planet, everything was so high stakes and fast paced that I definitely would have enjoyed spending a little more time there. And the thing that I kept coming back to once I hit those end pages was that I wish we had gotten more of the Taremi guy's point of view. Like if we'd had him like 3 or 4 times throughout the book, I would have loved to see that play out into like a more fulfilling character arc. But it would have made a long book longer. But it
would have like brought up the tension some and the stakes.
Yeah, for
if
sure.
You like knew what they were heading towards.
Yeah, I guess the stakes is a really good point of like showing what is going on in the bigger picture that the crew isn't necessarily aware of.
Because it's like every, like within the rest of the story for the stakes, it's like, yeah, every like bad thing that happens, they solve it fairly quickly. Like, you know, Rosemary just negotiates with the pirates, and then like Kizzy is just able to deactivate all the bombs, and they're not going to go off for another 3 hours, so we're good.
And like I suspected that they were going to get there and things were going to go really badly because it's like, it's a book. But it would have been cool to have like, oh no, like things are really amping up. It's going to get really bad.
Yeah.
Although at this point, after listening to Megan describe the end of the book to Emma, I would like, as much as I love this book, I would have so enjoyed just having her narrate the entire story.
Just Megan describes books.
All right, so Megan, you've got some feels. Is there any specific area you wanted to dive into?
Well, obviously the thing that gave me the most feels was Jinx and Lovey at the end. It hurt me a lot. I was angrily Snapchatting Kelly as I was reading it because I knew Emma wasn't there yet and I didn't want to spoil it for her. And I liked what happened. Like, obviously, I love crushing readers' hearts, but I haven't had my heart crushed like that in a really long time by a book.
Yeah, I really love Jinx and Lovey. Like we said in the pre-chat before we went live, that like that's definitely the relationship I was most invested in. Like the other relationships, I was like, like I felt like it was more telling me than showing me that people liked each other. But like it was, she was showing me that Jinx loved Lovey.
Yeah. Oh my gosh! And the way that they pulled out of point of view, so we weren't experiencing Jinx's grief through Jinx or even through Kizzy. We were watching it through Lovelace. And that hurts so bad. Like diabolical.
Especially in a book where everything pretty much works out okay, to have it
just fall apart for the one person who didn't deserve it.
They all deserve good things.
I could have done without Rosemary. Take her instead.
It's like, I didn't like Corbin. Wish something bad had happened to him. It almost did. But once again, there was a simple solution. And then, like, yeah. And yeah, I just didn't care about Rosemary that much. Or Ashby.
Ashby was the one I connected to the least. Of, like, he's just kind of there.
Yeah. Definitely, like, Kizzy and Jinx were... And, like, Dr. Chef.
For them.
Yeah.
All 3 of them.
I cared most about those 3, yeah. Especially Kizzy, I love her.
Yeah, she was great.
So
it wasn't that I like disliked Rosemary, but I felt a little bit like she was there so that we could get introduced to the crew. I was like, we need a new face because there's no way you're gonna be able to just jump into these dynamics and get them. But I did love her smarts, and She brought like a really cool flavor to the crew.
It's not very often you see a character whose like superpower is paperwork.
Yeah.
And research.
Yeah. She's like the accountant of the sci-fi world. It's just great.
Yeah, it's like very rare to see a sci-fi job and be like, yeah, I could probably do that.
Yeah, I couldn't do any of the rest of their jobs, but I could do Rosemary's job.
Yeah.
I got really excited about is it like Nib or something? The like archivist guy. I was like, yes.
You. I actually kind of liked Corbin once bad things started happening to him, though.
Once he had some depth.
Yeah, like once he got depth, I quite liked him to the point where I also wished that I'd gotten a little less of like Rosemary and Sissix and maybe a couple more chapters from Corbin's point of view before we hit the cloning stuff.
No.
Because before he just seems like this racist jerk, and we have no reason. Yeah, I'm sure he still is and has some things to work through and get better about. But it just felt like he was just there to be a dick to everyone. And I wish we could have seen inside his head just a little bit more to get like the backstory with his father. So when we find out he's a clone, it's like, oh, wow. Like,
yeah,
we've heard about this guy before.
Yeah. It's an interesting shift because the next book, it's a much smaller group of characters. They all stay in the same place. So it's the same kind of writing, but a very different vibe. And I honestly cannot remember what the plot of the book is. I know what's happening, but I don't know what the conflict is. So I'm not sure that part changes.
I read the description of it, and it was like Lovelace is with Pepper now, doing their thing, fixing things, and they run up into some problem there. And it makes me sad. I assume Lovey and Jenks is never going to happen. She's just gone.
The third one comes out this year, and I don't know what that's about either. But I will be reading it.
Yeah. I will probably read the second one of this one. It's one where if it wasn't book club, I feel like it would have been easy for me to set it down and forget to come back to it and like regret not coming back to it, but like it happened. But I'm really, really glad that I did push through to the end because it was awesome and different.
Like, the whole reason I like didn't finish it on time is because I was having to like push myself because it was like really easy to just set it down and do something. Like I would just kept wanting to like do something else. I'd get distracted and be like, "Oh, there's this other thing I could go and do." And I was like, "No, I need to read this book."
Yeah, that's right. Because I wasn't sure if I was gonna like this one a lot, and so I started it very early. Like I bought it 2 weeks ago, and usually I am a procrastination-y like for A Darker Shade of Magic. I read it all the day of. But this one I read like 10% at a time. I read it on Kindle, so I don't actually know how many pages that is, but like 10% at a time. Just kind of slowly making my way through it, and like I really enjoyed it that way.
Yeah, I really should have
made it
started
feel
earlier.
More serial.
I remembered it last Sunday. I was like, oh, I need to read that book. And then I like read like 30 pages between like Sunday and Saturday morning. And then I was like, crap, I need to finish this book. Looks like the third book takes place like with the Exodus fleet.
Yeah, it's like Ashby's sister. That'll probably be like a similar like on a ship. More...
But it's the fleet ship, which is where people live.
Do you know book 2? Do you remember if we run into any of the Wayfarer people?
I don't think so.
Interesting.
They're definitely like referenced, and I don't remember how it ends. Oh,
yeah,
but they're not like characters really. They're not stopping in or anything. But
oh, we touched on. Oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna say I do really like Pepper on her own though. Like she's so nice.
She was very compelling, even just from the small amount of page time she had.
No.
we touched on this briefly, but Rosemary and Sussex, I really struggled with that relationship. I was very confused.
It was like I wanted to be invested in it. I didn't feel like there wasn't enough lead up to it. Like I just felt like I kept being told like that Rosemary was, I don't know.
I think that part of it reflects in like it's not supposed to be a super, like it's just kind of a more casual thing.
Yeah. You see, I guess Rosemary is like, I just like you. So I was like, okay.
Yeah.
And maybe I think it was like super nice that she wanted to be more physical, not necessarily sexually with her. Just like, I didn't realize you were missing this in your life.
I did I really liked that scene where she like, you know, asked her if that's something she wants. Like I thought that was like really well done. But I just wish there'd been like a little bit more. Like they just kind of seemed like buddies.
Yeah.
And then she was like, actually.
Well, even apart from the relationship, I really like the scene where Sussex is just like cuddling the old lady on the planet. I just thought it was so nice. I'm just like,
Sussex
other people just walk by her, and it's just, it was nice.
Yeah.
That whole society was just really well developed. Like, like the different, like the family levels and the like comfort levels and
like the Hatch family versus the Feather family.
Yeah.
Sussex having like offspring, but they aren't really her children. And like,
I like when they go to visit her like Feather family or her Hatch family, and like they're all like cuddling, and then just the one couple just goes off to the side. And there's a couple. And like the one guy like tells Ashby and Rosemary, he's like, "You don't have to wear your clothes if you don't want to." Rosemary's like, "I'll keep them on for now, thanks." And the little kid that just like grabs her breasts.
And that was a big one where like Becky Chambers was not subtle with her political beliefs. It's just like Sussex is just like straight up, I don't understand why people like the adults are fully functioning things and you're undervaluing like it was just, I'm not going to get too much into it, but it was all up.
I love that. Yeah. I guess the confusion for me came more on Rosemary's end. Like Sussex, I was like, this is in character. But Rosemary, I was like, is this in character? I don't know.
Yeah. I think part of it's because like we have like so little backstory about Rosemary, other than like the thing with her father and her running away. Like I don't know, I feel like I didn't really know much about her like personally.
Yeah.
And like pretty much everyone else in the crew got a bit that sold into either their species or their backstory or just kind of their friends, whereas Rosemary's just there.
Yeah, and I kind of got the vibe that she was like from like a slightly more spoiled rich family.
Yeah. Well, we find out about her family. Her family had a ton of money.
And so I think they made like assumptions based off of that. And like, because she comes on and she's like, I have this secret. My family is super rich and I came from such a posh life where all of this is foreign and I've only read it in books. But also I'm going to hook up with this lizard lady.
She's a very nice lizard lady.
She is a super nice lizard lady. So, like, if there was a lizard lady Rosemary was gonna hook up with, yeah, it would be Sussex.
I'm trying to remember now. What prompted when Rosemary like confessed everything to Jenks? What had happened?
They saw it on the news.
On TV? Okay.
Yeah, at the archivist's place.
About her like dad's.
Yeah, that felt a little abrupt to me. Of like the first time it's mentioned, you buckle. Like.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would have liked to see more. It's crazy because there's so much character development going on that it's weird that I also felt like I wanted more because it was like these characters are so realistic feeling. But I definitely wouldn't have minded like a little bit more because it does affect her so much when she comes onto the ship. And I thought we were going to see some conflict eventually with the fact that her wrist thing is fake. But that never came up. I have another question that I wrote down while I was reading. So with Ohan, the Cyanot pair or whatever, we had all of that like intrigue or whatever, where we find out that like it's a virus and you could cure it, and Corbin takes it upon himself to do that. And so and there's like all this conflict there where like Ashby feels like basically Ohan should have the right to let the virus kill him and they shouldn't be involved in it at all. That it's almost like a religious thing. And so I was wondering if you guys thought that Corbin did the right thing.
I'd call it like straight up gray area.
Yeah.
There's no right or wrong. I can't like
Ethically murky, but you're glad he's alive.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I'm glad it happened, but if I was in the situation, I probably would have been more of an Ashby. Like, there's what I want you to do, but also, like,
yeah. Because yeah, like after the one where Rosemary saves the day with logic or whatever, and like Ohan is just staying really close to everybody, I just felt so protective.
Yeah.
You don't know how to like people, but you just want to be close to everybody.
I get that.
Yeah. So, yeah, I don't know. That's a tough. Do you have an answer?
No. Like the more I thought about it, the more I was just like, I don't know. I love that whole like Ohan's culture and meeting the solitaries was probably my favorite of like all the cultures and things that we met. Like it was the most standout to me. I think it just felt like there were so many parallels to like religion, and it felt a little matrixy and very like red pill, blue pill.
Yeah.
Who do you believe? Like, are the solitaries right, or would you be like destroying a part of Ohan? And so I was very fascinated by it and spent like a long time thinking about it after I finished that chapter. Yeah, I don't know, so great. We had a comment from Kelp. I love the way space travel was handled and the mechanics of how tunneling works. It was a really neat alternative to the usual warp drive / hyperspace.
Yeah, it was really cool.
I didn't understand how any of it worked, but,
but I don't understand how warp drive works.
And I just trust Becky Chambers because she's got a bunch of like astrophysicist people in her family, so
yeah.
The sciencey people.
It was explained in a way where I was like, I feel like this probably makes sense.
As much as anything does.
Yeah.
I love when like Kizzy tries to explain it with like porridge, and then she's like, "Oh, I can't fold porridge. This won't work."
Kizzy had so many great one-liners.
So great.
Like when she's like, "We're grown-ups. We can eat ice cream for dinner if we want."
Like,
oh my God,
has to be her like singing the lines to the like heavy metal song in some alien language. And that's just kills me. Like my pants don't match my socks or something like
yes.
that.
I love like one of the scenes I had just read before we got on the chat was like when her and Ashby go down to the solitary people's planet. And she's like eating her fire shrimp like she always is, and he's like, "You're getting crumbs everywhere," and she's like, "Who has to clean this shuttle out? This girl."
And when Jenks got her the whole thing of seasoning for it, so cute. I just want a whole book
such
about
a pure friendship.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I definitely like that the romances were not the main focus. Like it was really just like a friends who are like family kind of book.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Kizzy and Jinx reminded me of I can't remember their names. The two like nerds in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. But before they had a romantic relationship.
Yeah.
Their names make up another name. Oh yeah.
Fitzsimmons. Yeah. I don't think it's in the first season. But
Yes. I know that they like eventually have a romantic relationship and get together, but Jinx and Kizzy remind me of them before that, when they were
Yeah. Aw. And when Jinx is sad and he runs off on the ship, he like steals an escape pod and Kizzy just goes after him. They have all the like brother-sister talk. It was adorable. I know you didn't read that and Kelly just had to mute herself because of dogs. It was adorable.
It sounds adorable.
Yeah. It was great.
The only character we haven't really touched on is Dr. Chef.
Oh my god.
I love him. He's just wonderful.
He was fascinating, like how she came up with that species.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
With this hand feet and
the whole history, like their whole Civil War thing, like everything. How they like go from being female to male to like neither. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And
Dr. Chef is precious.
Yes. He just took care of everyone.
Came from this war-torn life, and now he just wants to take care of people by feeding them.
Yeah, the scene that really cemented what Emma was saying for me before about like human, or maybe it was Megan. One of you said before about humans not really being the big bad species, is like Sissix and Dr. Chef talking about how these humans don't smell as bad as the other ones because they're like sneaking stuff into their soap.
Yes, I loved that. It was like such a fun touch.
Yeah, their like non-human bonding was great.
Mm-hmm. And I think it brought up one of the big themes of the book too that we didn't see as much when there were humans on the page, or I guess sapiens. Is that what they called the humans?
No, they're still humans. Sapiens were
everyone. That's right. Okay.
Anything like thinking and
yeah. But anyway, like one of the huge themes of like it's okay to be scared, or like emotions are okay, and a lot of times as humans we try to bury them or like compartmentalize too much. But like Sissix and Dr. Chef had that whole conversation about like, no, you just like you feel it and you figure it out, and it doesn't go away, but you at least know how to deal with it.
It's Kizzy and Pei that have the conversation about like being scared. Yeah, they have a conversation about being scared and just dealing with it. And Pei is like, I can't hide my emotions because like it shows on my face.
On her face.
They were cool too.
Yeah.
Yes, that was so cool.
Their silvery skin. They're apparently beautiful to everyone.
Yeah.
There's also the scene after Rosemary's big thing where like she hadn't freaked out yet.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And everyone else is just like, oh, I like screamed and cried for an hour. You have to go cry for a bit.
And they thought that Dr. Chef was like singing or something. But he was like, no, I was having a breakdown. Thank you.
Ashby is like, it was very beautiful.
We had another comment earlier from Engriswald. I was surprised no one in the crew questioned Jenks's feelings for Lovey. They all just accepted it as love. I found myself wondering if falling in love with an AI was typical behavior or like something that had been seen before.
I don't think it's typical because it sounds like there's like a lot of controversy about like whether or not AI should be like classified as like sentient and or like as like having rights. But maybe they all just kind of suspected.
Yeah.
They're like, this dude keeps getting naked and getting in the hull of the ship.
Like, Jake spends a lot of time in there.
Yeah. I'm guessing it's just a symptom of these characters being a little too nice. Of like, although I did love like Ashby going to that's at the end of the book, but there's like a summary thing at the end to kind of talk about what happened, and I was like super nice to the AIs. I really appreciated it. She was like treating all the computers with so much respect and like being super courteous, and people are too nice.
Yeah, they're all very nice. I feel like the only one who really would have said anything or not been nice about it would have been Corbin. So
yeah. I was like furious when he went to that debriefing, because it was a debriefing with like all of the GC people who were basically overseeing the project. And Rosemary, I believe it was, convinced Ashby that he needed to go because he didn't want to, and she was like, you need to stop hiding from all of these things. I don't care if you're a pacifist, like, we should not have been there, and you need to tell them that. And so they get in there and they're like, was anyone hurt? And he's like, we lost our AI. And they're like, oh, thank goodness no one was hurt. I was like, I'll kill all of you. How could you do this?
Megan is not a pacifist.
But Ashby said his words. It was fine. They heard what they needed to hear. Along the same lines, Kelt said, personally, I just wanted more tiny bots in hats. Which was so cute. Kizzy made hats for all her little fixed spots at the end.
Very random, but okay.
Because she was like anti-fixed spots at the beginning.
Yeah.
But when things were so hectic, she deployed a bunch of them. And that's how like you knew it was really bad.
I figured at the beginning when she was like, I'll only use these in emergency, I was like, these are going to get used at the end.
Yeah, so they find her at the end and she's knitting little yellow hats for all of them. Even though they aren't sentient. She's just like, they need hats too, it gets cold in here.
Okay.
Yeah. So right. Just quickly scrolling through reviews to see if there are any other things people had issue with, or because like look, it's a very well, especially for a first book.
It's
got
very
like a 4.18 on Goodreads, which is really, really good. But there's definitely like there's a lot of 5s and a lot of 1s and 2s.
Yeah.
Either you like it or you don't.
It's definitely geared towards like a certain audience.
Mm-hmm. I'm very curious to see like how all of this GC dealing comes up in later books. Because I don't have a ton of assumptions about the later books, knowing that like all the characters aren't going to return. But this conflict seems like very big, and it would seem strange to me not to address it at least a little. So I'm very curious to see like how the Tremi play in later books, because they do at the end cancel the alliance thing, right?
Yeah.
Even though like the Tremi were like really interesting. How they like all believe that there's like a pattern that you have to follow, but none of them can agree on like what the pattern is.
And so they just keep killing each other.
Yeah, and then they just circle around the core because they're like the galaxy circles, we have to circle.
Yeah, and it was so interesting seeing them like interact with one another. Particularly when we see I can't remember his name, the Tremi guy talking to his leader, and just feeling the tension of like, so do you agree or don't you?
Because if you don't, we have to kill you.
Because if you don't, like, we all agree we have to kill you. You know that. But I wonder if we got like a whole book of that, if it would start to feel a little too cliche dystopian or something. I don't know. I believe Becky could do it.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, I feel like it'd be hard to really get invested in that character, but if anyone could do it, this is the author.
Yeah. I was reading in the acknowledgements, because I love the acknowledgements section. I didn't know that this book was written from a Kickstarter campaign.
Says that in the back of the book somewhere, I think.
Yeah. She like lost her job, and it was like, oh no, what am I gonna do? I'd like to write this book, but like I need a job. And so they did a Kickstarter that like funded her life so she could write the book.
Well, I'm very glad they did.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, she was like 2/3 of the way through the first draft, and she lost her job.
Mm-hmm.
Not looking at the actual like Kickstarter page.
53 people contributed to it.
That's super nice.
I love that. Yeah. People taking care of people, which is another huge theme of the book. The people just like take care of each other. This was published in the U.S. by Harper Voyager, right?
I think so. Yeah, it was like self-published, then UK, then US.
Mm-hmm.
The UK books come out first.
I think she said in the thing that Anne Perry was her editor.
Yeah.
Is that the same Anne Perry who like writes all the books and like may have murdered someone?
I hope so. I find that Anne Perry very fascinating.
Yeah. I don't know, the whole thing, I was into it. I love it.
Yeah. Becky Chambers' partner's name is Berglog.
Yes.
I want to know where she's from with that kind of name.
I want to say it's German. I feel like I read that somewhere while I was researching in preparation for this chat. But I'm probably making that up, so don't quote me on it. I'm like, yeah, that sounds German. I know language. This linguistics degree's paying off.
I didn't really have anything else I wanted to cover, unless there was anything else you guys wanted to digest, but did pretty well for a 3-people book club.
Yeah.
It looks like Berglog is kind of a Nordic origin. Yeah. So there you go.
Good to know.
Yeah, thank you so much to everyone who's been like reading the book clubs with us. That is really cool and a new thing that's been happening like this year. We love having you guys here, and it's just a lot of fun. Our next book club is Turtles All the Way Down by John Green, which I imagine we will have a lot to talk about there too in a more contemporary way.
I'm going to have to read that too.
I already read it and I am not reading it again. I will flip through it. But I did not hate it. I didn't love it, but I didn't hate it. So I like those chats because I feel like we always have a lot to talk about when you don't love or hate it.
That's why I want to do this one. Like it's not a perfect book. It's pretty different from anything we've read. And because of all the different parts, there's a lot of different parts to talk about.
I'm definitely glad I read it.
Me too.
But I don't know if I'll read the others.
No.
I probably will. I've been reading a lot of fantasy this year, which is so weird because last year I read like 3 fantasy out of 40 books. But this year it's been all sci-fi fantasy. Which reminds me, I need to get Obsidio.
Yes. I haven't read it yet. I haven't.
I haven't read it yet either. So what I was most looking forward to, and I have it. Like, nope.
I'm just behind on a lot of stuff.
Yeah. It's such a big book that it's like I want to be able to just sit down and just go through it because I know I'm not going to want to put it down.
Yeah.
But I need like a full day. Maybe during hiatus.
All right. Do we want to wrap it here?
This seems good.
All right, guys, thank you so much for joining us tonight. This has been a lot of fun. We so appreciate everyone who jumps in and participates in our book clubs. We will be back next week talking about something.
Something, yeah. We'll figure it out in the post chat and then let you know.
We'll let you guys know. As usual, we will have videos all week. In the meantime, enjoy the rest of your weekend, and we will see you all next time.
Bye.